So example 8, the SAE rating of an engine is given by R equals D squared N over 2.5. So very much like the word problems we've already seen in this section, just more practice basically today. So they give us an equation. So our equation is R equals D squared N over 2.5. Notice there's three variables, so I want to continue reading the problem to identify what each variable represents, to find out what they're telling me for information, what they're asking me to find. So it says D is the bore of the cylinder in inches. So D equals bore in inches. And N is the number of cylinders. N equals number of cylinders. And what must the bore be for an 8-cylinder engine to have an SAE rating of 33.8? So that means R must be the SAE rating. Okay, so what must the bore be? So what are we trying to find? The bore, which is D, right? So D equals question mark inches. Again, the formula gives the bore in inches, so whatever number we get out is going to be in inches. I'm pretty sure that's a diameter, is what that is. The bore of the cylinder. So if you have an engine, you have the cylinders, and you have the pistons that go in the cylinders, and the cylinders are circular holes, right? So the bore would be the diameter of that bore, basically, in inches. So the diameter would be a positive number, so expect if you get a plus or minus, we're going to throw the negative out. N is the number of cylinders. How many cylinders are there?
8.
8, right? What must the bore be for an 8-cylinder engine? So number of cylinders is 8. And what's the SAE rating?
33.8.
33.8. So again, they give me a formula. They tell me what the letters in the formula represent, and then they give me information about some of those letters. So that's kind of what you want to do, is you want to pick that information out of the problem. As far as what you're writing down, I mean, you need to write down as much as you need to write down for yourself to be able to handle this problem. If you can handle the problem without writing down all this information, but just go from here, read up and there, and fill out your formula, that's fine. But I would recommend that you at least have a mental thought of each of this going on while you're working these out. So R is 33.8. We don't know what D is. N is 8, and 2.5 is 2.5. Okay. So once again, I have one thing as a fraction equals one thing that's not a fraction. It's a pretty common process here, common occurrence. Whenever I have that look, I usually just cross multiply. So this fraction, 33.8 over 1, equals that fraction, 8D squared over 2.5. This product, 8D squared, equals that product, 2.5 times 33.8, 84.5. Equals that product. And since there is no D to the first power, getting D squared by itself first, I'm going to divide both sides by 8. I'm going to do 84.5 divided by 8. That comes out to 10.5625. D squared equals 10.5625. And if we know what D squared equals, to find D, we take the square root of that number. So D should equal the square root of 10.5625.
It's 3.25.
3.25, thank you, Ashton. D is equal to positive 3.25 inches. It didn't specify number of decimal places, a couple decimal places, good. Especially 3 1/4. I mean, that's a pretty typical measurement, right? It's an actual 1/4 inch measure on most rulers, so that'd be helpful. So anyway, 3 1/4 inches would be the diameter of the bore of this 8-cylinder engine.